Hello, fifth graders. Today we're going to take a look at our math lesson, chapter 13, lesson 1. The topic we're going to talk about today is order of operations. It'll be found starting on page 735 in your textbook. So if you want to open up to page 735 and follows, that would be great. So this starts a new chapter for us, and this chapter is going to talk about what do you do whenever you have more than one operation in a particular problem. So it starts off here by saying, whenever you want to solve an equation that has more than one operation, there is an order that you need to do the operations. Now, when I talk about operations, I'm not talking about being a doctor and opening someone's chest up. That's not the type of operation we're talking about. The operation I would talk about would be either some sort of arithmetic operation, and that would be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So whenever you're trying to do a problem that has more than one of those in there, you have to make sure you do them in the proper order. And there is a saying that I usually have all my students memorize, and I think by memorizing this particular saying, it's going to help you remember what order you should do the operations. And the saying that I'd like for you to memorize is this phrase right here: please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now, I know it sounds weird. We're in math class, and now we're talking about English sentences and so on and so forth. Well, the reason why I have students memorize that sentence is because each first letter of each word is going to tell you what order you should be doing your operations. So I'm going to go through what each one of those letters means right now, and then we're going to go through a couple of examples together. So the first one is going to be the word please. So the word please represents the words parentheses. Anytime you have parentheses in the equation, you always want to do what is inside of the parentheses first. Like I said, we're going to go through a couple of examples in just a moment, but the word please stands for the word parentheses. Now, the word E, which is excuse, the letter E, excuse, is going to talk about something that you are actually not going to see today in your lesson. But I want you to memorize it because, especially when you get into sixth grade and beyond, you will see these in there. And the letter E stands for the word exponents. Exponents are those little number, like the little 2 or the little 3 that's put behind a number. Again, for today's lesson, you're not going to have to worry about dealing with exponents. There are no exponents in here. But just for the sake of memorizing our phrase, keep in mind that's where the exponents are going to go. So you always do what's inside the parentheses first, and then you do the exponents second. Then you have the words my dear, my dear. That's going to stand for the operations that we're probably most familiar with, which is multiplication as well as division. Now, you should notice something about the way that I wrote my dear. The words my and dear are actually on the same line as each other. The reason why I do that is because I don't want you thinking that you always do multiplication before division. That is not true. If you ever have both multiplication and division at the same time, then you will always do whichever one comes first in the problem. So it is possible that you might actually do some division before you have to do some multiplication. It just depends on what order they come into. All right. So keep that in mind as we go through our lesson today. Multiplication and division, whichever one comes first. And then the last one here is Aunt Sally. Aunt Sally. That's going to stand for our addition and subtraction. You should also notice that, very similar to the my dear, the words Aunt and Sally are also on the same line. Again, you are not always going to do addition before subtraction. If you ever have to do them both at the same time, then you would do whichever one comes first in the problem. And like I said, we are going to go through a couple of problems together to help us understand. So we have, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. It's going to represent parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. All right, so let's see what we remember from the previous page. I have 5 problems up here, and we're not going to solve these problems. We're not going to solve them. We're just going to name what operation would you do first in these particular situations. So first of all, here's my problem. I have 6 plus 27 divided by 3. I'll give you a little bit of hint. Let's go back for just a minute. Remember, you're always going to do parentheses first, exponents, then multiplication, division, and then lastly, addition, subtraction. Okay, let's take a look at our problem then. I have 6 plus 27 divided by 3. What operation am I going to do first? Hopefully, you remember, we are actually going to do the division first. So we would actually write division here. Okay, you're going to do your division first. So much fun writing with this pen. Okay, so you would actually write, I'm going to do the division first. That's what so in this particular problem, I would divide these two numbers first before I add 6. Let's come on over here to this one. I have 5 times 2 plus the 12 divided by 6. So I have 3 of them. I have a multiplication, I have an addition, and I have a division. If you remember from the previous page, you should notice I have multiplication and division. So whenever you have those two, you should always do whichever one comes first. So what operation would you do first? In this case, we would do the multiplication. I'm not going to write that because it's just going to take too long. Next one down here, I have 17 and 25 hundredths, and I'm going to subtract 4 and 5 fifths plus 3 and 75 hundredths. And notice that that's inside parentheses. So whenever you're taking a look at this problem here, what would you do first? The temptation is to say, excuse me, I'm going to do the parentheses first. But remember, it says, name the operation you would do first. Yes, there is parentheses, but you have to do the addition first. So on your paper, you do need to write down addition. I'm going to do the adding first because it's what's being done inside the parentheses. Okay, so you do the addition first because you have to do the parentheses first. Here we have 2 sets of parentheses. I got 14 minus 7, and then I'm going to add 3 plus 5. Remember what I said. Whenever you have both at the same time, you do whichever one comes first. Since you have 2 sets of parentheses, you do which one comes first. So what operation would you do first? You're going to do the subtraction first. You're going to do this 14 minus 7 first. That's the first part. Our last problem here. I have 4 divided by 2, and I'm going to multiply that by 8. Again, please excuse my dear multiplication and division. Since I have them both, you always do whichever one comes first. So in this particular situation, I'm going to do the division first. Okay? So knowing that phrase, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, remembering that you got parentheses and then exponents, and then multiplication division is on the same line, addition, subtraction on the same line. That'll help you when you're going through today's lesson. So what I did is I put that little chart back up here in the corner. So let's start with this particular problem here. Let's say I've got 36 plus 9 divided by 3 times 5. You should notice that in this problem, I have an addition, a division, and a multiplication. And so the order of operations that I do them in would be, okay, first I'm going to do parentheses. Well, good news is that there is no parentheses whatsoever here. So we don't have to worry about that. So we're done with that. I told you there's going to be no exponents, so we don't have to worry about that. Then I have to do multiplication and division. Well, I noticed that I have both multiplication and division. So whenever you have both, you have to do whichever one comes first. And so what I did here is I drew a line under what should be done first, which is the 9 divided by 3. And so I'm just going to do this part here, 9 divided by 3, and I'm going to put that answer. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so I put that 3 right below it. And all the other work that I haven't done yet, I'm just going to bring it down. I bring the multiply by 5 because I haven't done anything with that yet. I'm going to take the plus 36. I'm going to bring that down. And so now I'm left with this problem right here. Now I have 2 operations to go. I have addition and multiplication. And according to my chart over here, I still got to do my multiplication. So that actually is what I'm going to do next. So I drew a line under the 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is going to give me the answer 15. Okay. That's what I'm going to do here, and then I bring down the 36 plus because I haven't done anything with that yet. So that keeps coming down. Then lastly, I have addition and subtraction. And you should notice I have one thing left to do, which is just addition. So I'm going to take 36 plus 15. I'm going to do that problem, and my final answer is 51. So if you take a look at this problem, it looks like the problem just gets smaller and smaller as you go down. You have to make sure you do them in the right order. Now, somebody would say, well, Mr. Johnson, okay, that's all fine and good. But what would happen if you just decided, rather than doing this over here, what if you just went from left to right? Let's just do it in order. Would I still get the 51? Well, here's your example right here. Here's your answer. So let's say I did 36 plus 9 first. If I did the 36 plus 9 first, I get 45. and then I'd bring the divide by 3 down and the multiply by 5. Then the next thing I do is 45 divided by 3. 45 divided by 3 would give me 15. And again, I bring the multiply by 5 down. And then the last one I do is 15 times 5. And then this answer here is 75. And if you notice, these two answers are not the same. So, which one is correct? This one is not correct because this one here did not follow the order of operations. This one is our correct answer because it did follow the order in which we should do them in. Here's another example of when we have parentheses. So here's my problem. 36 minus 5, and I'm going to add 16 minus 11, and it's located in parentheses. So the first thing I want to do is whatever is inside the parentheses. Inside the parentheses right now, I have the 16 minus 11. So I'm just going to focus on that right now. I'm going to take 16 minus 11, and that gives me 5. Now, as soon as I subtract this, I don't need to have those parentheses around anymore, so I'm just going to get rid of them because I've already done what's inside the parentheses. So the parentheses almost kind of eliminate themselves. But then I am going to bring the 36 minus 5 and the plus. I'm going to bring that down because I haven't done anything with that yet. Exponents, no exponents in this lesson. Any multiplication and division, not in this row, but I do have addition and subtraction. And whenever you have addition and subtraction, you have to do which one comes first. So in this case, the subtraction comes first. So I do the 36 minus 5. 36 minus 5 is 31, and then I bring the plus 5 down. And then my last step would be 31 plus 5, and so my answer for this problem is going to be 36. Kind of weird that it actually comes back to the first number you started with, okay? Then there'll be some other problems like this where you have two sets of parentheses. I have a 3 plus 4, and then I have a 3 plus 5. In this situation, since you're going to do both parentheses, you could probably go ahead and do them both at the same time. So I'm going to do the 3 plus 4, which is 7, and the 3 plus 5, which is 8. Now, some of you might say, but Mr. Johnson, I thought we were supposed to do multiplication first before the addition. That is true. You should always do multiplication first before addition, unless the addition is found inside parentheses, because you always have to do the parentheses first. So in this case, I do want to do the additions first. So that way I've got 3 plus 4, which is 7, 3 plus 5, which is 8, and then I just bring the multiplication symbol down, and now I'm just left with 7 times 8, and my final answer would be 56. What I've done is over here I have a problem that we can work on together. So let's take 4 times inside parentheses 3 minus 2, and then plus 18. So the first thing I want to take for is, do we have any parentheses? Yes, we do. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to draw a line under the 3 minus 2 because I want to do that part first. So I have 3 minus 2, which gives me 1. Then I'm going to bring everything else down. I'm going to bring the multiply by 4 down, and I'm going to bring the plus 18 down as well. Then the next thing we look for is, do I have any exponents? Well, remember I said in today's lesson, you're not going to have that. Now I want to check for, do I have any multiplication or division? And I do have a multiplication here. So that is now going to be the next thing I'm going to work on, which is 4 times 1. And what is 4 times 1? If I take 4 times 1, that should give me 4. And I'm going to bring the plus 18 down because I haven't done anything with that yet. And now I'm left with any addition and subtraction. And I do have an addition problem, which is 4 plus 18. If I take 4 plus 18, my final answer should be 22. So 22 would be my answer. Okay? Let's do just a couple more here. Now, hopefully you were able to understand that part of the lesson. There's another part to this lesson today where they're going to give you the expression, except this time they're going to give you a specific answer, which is 2. Notice in the previous problems over here, there were no answers. You had to try to find the answer. Well, this time they do have an answer, which is 2. And so what they want you to do is they want you to put a set of parentheses around the number that you would do first. So with this type of problem, you may have to do this with paper and pencil because you may have to do some experimenting. You may have to try some different problems out to see what the correct answer is, okay? So you need to put a set of parentheses around something. So let's just say, for example, you say, you know what? I want to do the 30 minus 4 first. I'm going to put a set of parentheses around this because I'm going to do this first. Okay, let's do that. If I do 30 minus 4 is 26. And now I'm going to bring everything else down. 26 times 2 plus 5. Okay, I don't have to worry about bringing the equal to down because I want to make sure that this is my answer. Then the next thing I would do in this situation is the multiplication, which is 26 times 2. 26 times 2 is going to give me 52. And now I'm left with 52 plus 5. And if I add 52 plus 5, that gives me 57. So I noticed that 57 is not the same number as 2, which means, here's the good news, the parenthesis does not go around the 30 minus 4. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all this. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another set of parentheses around a different two numbers. Let's say, for example, I'm going to put my parentheses around this number here, the 4 times 2. If I put my parentheses around there, all right, now let's do that first. If I do the 4 times 2, that gives me 8. And now I'm left with 30 minus 8 plus 5. No multiplication division. I have addition and subtraction, so you always do whichever one is listed first, which is the 30 minus 8. 30 minus 8 is 22. And now I have 22 plus 5. And if I do that one, 22 plus 5 is going to give me 27. So it looks like there, again, I didn't get the right answer. I'm supposed to get the number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that and get that out of here. Well, it looks like I'm running down on options here as to what I'm supposed to put parentheses around. Let's go ahead and put the parentheses around the 2 plus 5 this time. Okay, so I'm going to do that first. Let's do 2 plus 5. 2 plus 5 is going to give me 7. And now I'm going to bring the times 4 and then the minus 30 down. Okay. Now, according to my chart over here, the next thing I want to do is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply my 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. Now I'm going to bring the 30 down. Okay. So I take 30 minus 28. That's my last problem. And there gives me 2. So there I did match up my answer. So in the book, they're going to want you to put a set of parentheses around these two numbers. Okay. Same thing right here. I have 10 divided by 2. I'm going to subtract 3 and then add 1. And that's going to give me the number 3. Okay. Now, if I were to, let's just say I put parentheses around this first set here. I have 10 divided by 2, which is 5. And then I got minus 3 plus 1. Well, if I subtract those two, 5 minus 3 is 2. And I bring the plus 1 down. And now my last step is 2 plus 1, which is, hey, 3. I got it right away. So 3, that's my answer. So I would want to put a set of parentheses around this number because that's what I want to do first. And that's how you're going to do the second part of the equation, the assignment today, when it says insert parentheses to make each statement true. You may have to try one. If it doesn't work, you may have to get an eraser out or something and try. It's going to be one of those trial and errors. But the most important thing is make sure you still follow these rules in those situations. So your assignment for this particular lesson is going to be found on pages 739 and 740. I am going to have you do numbers 1 through 21. You're going to cross out 22, 23, and 24, and then I'm going to have you do numbers 25 and 26 as well. Okay. So if you have any questions on this lesson, as always, please make sure you reach out to me. I'm here to help you wherever I can. If you need some clarification on something, you want to rewatch the video game, please do so. But if not, I will see you with the next lesson.